Okay guys, welcome back. The last project we did was the Signal Master, which unfortunately due to being sick and a few other things I haven't got edited and up at the time I'm shooting this. But we're going to just dive right into the next section. So we still got our tools here, our Phillips head, flathead, and our Torx drivers, our nut driver, we got the light bar. Next thing I think we'll do is probably take and remove these. So for these, you've got nuts holding them down here and here. That's your arrow stick control bar for the Signal Master. Then over here, you got two holding it down here and here. And then this one has these plastic tabs holding it down in several different places. These also have plastic tabs holding them in, which we're going to need to work them over. So let's get right to it. First step, right here, your ground point, where all the ground wires come together. So first thing we're going to do is take our nut driver here, get that set up. This is 1/4 inch. Just going to drop that on and test it. Seems to fit, so we'll go ahead and pull that one off. And once we get that broke loose, as you can see, these are a little rusty, so it takes some little extra effort on a few of them. But we've got that one popped loose, and we're going to go ahead and pull that off. What we're going to do is try to remove all three of these as a unit. Just lift all three of them out at the same time. Just trying to save a little bit of time, and if they're connected together, yes, they take up a little more space in storage, but they'll be easier to find, and you won't have to remember which wires went where. But we'll try to cover that anyway. So, as before, over here in our crate, we've got one of the lenses we removed. We'll set that up there out of the way, and again use that for parts storage. So we're going to go through, break these ones loose. Those 2 points there. This plastic point here. This plastic point here. Let me close in on one of these and show you if I can get this to work right. The deal with these plastic points is that you have to squeeze this little blade into the peg and then lift the board up off of it. It's a little tricky. This one here is already busted, and don't panic. You're probably going to break some things taking these apart. The trick is just not to break them so badly that they can't be repaired or used. Basically, the little blade, it helps keep the vibration down, but we can live without it. So just squeeze that in with your finger, take and lift the board a little bit, that'll hold it. You'll figure it out, it's not too difficult. We're going to go ahead and get the bolts holding the boards down and the physical connections ready, and then we'll go over the wiring. Okay, so now we went through and got all of our little bolts disconnected and lifted the boards up off of the plastic pegs and the bolts that were holding them down. And what we're going to do next is work on unwiring. So first thing we're going to do, because it's nice and easy, is right here is where your Cat 5 comes in. This is just standard 8-pin computer Ethernet cable, as far as I've been able to determine. We'll cover that later when we get into testing. Pinch the little tab down on top, give it a jiggle back and forth while pulling on it, and it should pop out if you did it right. It's just like your phone jack and every other type of cable on the planet that has a tab on it. Now, disconnecting some of these plastic posts here, some of them gave me some trouble. I had to take and use the pliers on them. Also, I only ran into it once, but over here, this one this one bolt was too long for my nut driver. I had to use the pliers to loosen the nut until I could get it with the nut driver. Pliers, not the best thing for taking nuts out with, but I'm planning to replace any of this that I break. There's a hardware store 10 minutes away, so if I damage a nut or a bolt, it's an easy fix for me. So we've got our physical mounts disconnected on all of the boards. Next thing we're going to do, we've disconnected our Cat 5. Just going to lay that right there. Next thing we're going to do is come over here. This is on the left side of the bar, and we already removed this. We put all of our nuts and bolts and so forth into this lens. Organization, you're going to have to figure something out on your own that works better than this. I'm not going to put that much thought into it, because like I said, anything I lose I'm just going to replace. So we come in here, this is your main ground, comes in off your main harness. That's on top, we're going to lift that off. Then your signal master ground lead is the next one, we're going to lift that off. That goes to this board here. And then the next one goes to this board, which I don't remember what it's called. So I'm going to lift the traffic advisor board loose off of all of its pegs. Now has this red wire connecting it to the main board, is what we'll call this. And the main board also is connected to the motor drive board by a ribbon cable here and a red power lead here. The arrow stick board is connected to the motor drive board here with a ribbon cable. This is part of why we're going to just leave everything hooked together for the moment. Next we're going to come down here to the other end and take this big fat red wire and disconnect it. You can sort of see it here on the board. That's where it says BAT for battery. That's your positive input to drive the whole system with. So we'll get that disconnected there. Now this is your main power input, which is now not connected to anything at this end. And down at the other end, it is just a very, very short little pigtail. So we're going to leave that there because it's attached to the main bar and it won't get lost. So next, we're going to try to turn this whole assembly over if we can. And if we can't do that, which is what it's looking like, well, there we go. We might have something here. Okay, here we are. Let me move our parts tray that I almost knocked over. Now, next thing we're going to do is look at the bottom side. And in case our life wasn't exciting enough, we appear to be missing the main microchip for the light bar. We're not sure because we haven't looked into the manual very much yet and fun things like that. For right now, we're going to remove everything. So these pins along the bottom, these cable connectors, drive your stepper motors, which is on the bottom of this. So you want to disconnect all of these just like that, and one at a time. Work them back and forth until they disconnect. Then up here, these cables, the red and black, drive your light bulbs in the pods. We wanted to go ahead, take and just disconnect those the same way. Just grab them and lift. And we're going to go ahead and disconnect the light cables and the motor cables, and then we'll turn the camera back on. Okay, so now we've got all of our wiring bundles disconnected, and we're going to just take this This is the main input board, has a huge relay on it. We're going to just take a hold of the heatsink attachment here and lift the entire assembly out by its ribbon cables. This is the arrow stick board, the motor drive board, and the main input board. And we're going to just set that over here in our crate for the moment. Now these are all of our cables. These are your motor drive cables. They may not be marked on yours. You can see these little white strips on mine here are labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. The light bulb cables also are labeled. Little white tab under tape. This looks like some department tech has probably worked on this bar a few times. But anyway, these are labeled 1 through 8, and these are labeled 1 through 8, or 1 through however many wires there are. So now we can back off, take a look. We've got it cleaned out mostly. We still have our plastic mounting pegs. We're going to just go ahead and leave those there, because plastic gets brittle as it gets older, and the more you move it around, the more likely you are to break something. So next, what we're going to work on is trying to get this portion of the bar taken apart, which it looks like to do that we have to remove all of the pods and then pull up the bolts holding it together. So I'm going to go ahead and break the video here. And next time I shoot, we will remove all of the pods off of this.